Hi, good morning, President Wacker and Steve. How are you? Can you unmute? Yes.
I can, thank you. Steve, I don't know about you, but this is a great way to begin a Monday morning. So great to see you and be on again.
President Wacker, you took the words right out of my mouth. And I'm glad I'm inside because I don't know how the weather is in St. Cloud, but we just got a downpour of rain. So I'm glad I'm inside. And it is so good to see you again, President Wacker.
We know that Zoom is having a lot of problems this morning, so we're very grateful that our participants, seems like we've probably gotten about half our participants that we normally have on a Monday morning, but we're grateful for every one of you that are here. And so I'd just like to start off by having a welcome by President Wacker.
Well, thank you and good morning. You know, just reflecting on this event, and I would be remiss if I didn't start by congratulating you, Dr. Knopf, and the organizers, many of whom were students, in this brilliant way that you've managed to take what we thought was going to be an in-person event and create it in such a way that this, 30 days for 30 years is just really remarkable. And I hope people steal the idea, because it's been a great way, I think, to be connected and for people to be able to really take in such a wide variety of critical topics. And I know you've had a lot of attendees and certainly people from around the globe, which is a testament to why this has been such an amazing event. So just absolutely delighted to be part of the conversation this morning, and really appreciate people's commitment to this work and this effort. So delighted to be here. Thanks.
We're so happy that you're here. We have many of our incoming graduate students are on this morning, and they're actually in the background learning how to run a Zoom webinar on their very first day. So it's really exciting to be able to have the president of St. Cloud State University be with us this morning, be such support of our program and of our mission. Really is about inclusion and advocacy for people with disabilities, so that we can have inclusive campuses and inclusive events like this one here for all of our students and community members. I'm really excited to see you on Friday, because Friday is our big gala event. It starts at 4:30, and we will be hosting some watch parties. We'll be sharing about 30 watch parties, so we're asking people to dress up in their finest kind of attire and maybe have some balloons and music in the background. And we will have a special message by President Wacker, but we'll also have Commissioner Grove, Governor Waltz, and Senator Harkin speaking with us on Friday at 4:30. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if you are, but we've already put some mocktail recipes on Facebook for our attendees. So I won't tell anyone if there's something other than the mocktail in there, but I think it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I agree. I look forward to it. And even the part where I get to dress up again, right, for the gala. I mean, it's super awesome. It'll be great. And
Yes.
glad to hear the graduate students are on. Right away my mind went to comp questions, but that was probably a bad idea, right?
Probably a really bad idea to go to comp questions first thing on the first day.
I know, what's wrong with me, right? I know.
No, that's okay. We have an amazing group of students that are coming in this year, but I have to say that all of the work, these last 25 days of events have been done by our amazing second year students. And so we've had a shout out to a couple students that I just think have been fabulous and amazing. Taylor Fisher is a second year student, and she also has been interning in our assistive technology lab. And our technology would not be happening every day if it were not for her. Caitlin Wall is another student who has been consistent and helping to make all of this happen. And then we have a student from Metro State His name is Vincent, and he has been here for every session helping out with our technology. So those students have been awesome. And then, of course, you know, we could not do this without our grant director, Katie. So really thankful, and I'm excited to have a conversation with Steve this morning. So thank you, President Wacker, for being here. We appreciate you stopping by, and I'm sure this is going to be a really busy day for you, but it's an exciting day, the first day of classes on campus. So
it is, and I was really serious. This is just, you know, for me, this work and what this represents and the commitment to the education advocacy and really continuing to make a difference in the lives of students with disabilities is so important. And this is just, not only is the first day of the semester a reminder of why we're here, you know, what we do and why it's important, but also this work too. And I just want to thank you and all the students too. It's, I'm really proud of this work and proud to be your president. So thanks for all you do.
Thank you. We have to remember that disability really is just an aspect of diversity. And so when we talk about diversity, we must always have disability present at the table. So
that's right. And just wanted to show you, I'm still on the hunt for a mask, right? That has the clear, right?
Yeah, that works well. Yeah,
yes.
I bought some and they fog up. So it's not helpful because after 5 minutes, Elise is like, I still can't see your face. But
that's right. We need to get our engineers to working on it.
Our
right?
engineers need to work on a mask that doesn't fog up.
That's right. That's right. Well, have a great day. Have a good morning.
You.
And we'll see you on Friday.
Thank you.
You bet.
All right. Good morning, Steve. I love that your t-shirt. Do you want to tell our audience what your t-shirt says?
Well, this is just an old thing that was laying around. I got
really?
I throw it on. No, I'll begin by giving an audio description of myself. I am a white male, middle 50s, shall we say. I have gray hair, not a whole lot on top, and I am wearing a fabulous black t-shirt with the ABILITY event written on it, and in Chinese characters it says thankful. I believe that's what it says.
Yes.
And I am thankful for this, the past 20 some odd days.
25 days.
And I would just like to, Amy, reiterate what President Wacker said, and to you. You and the students at SCSU, it have been great. Not only this year, but in past years. And we'll get into this more, but what this event has become is amazing. It's amazing.
I'll agree with you. And I want to talk about that in just a minute, but first, you reminded me that I did not do an audio description of myself. So let me do that for our audience. My name is Amy Abernoff, and I am a white female. I have short, curly, grayish hair, purple cat-eye glasses, and this morning I'm wearing my suit that is made of cashmere that I had made in China when I was living there for a few months during my research time. So it's my lucky suit jacket from my good friends in China. I want to go back to this conversation that you started and talk about when we first started the ABILITY event. You and I think we were sitting in a restaurant and we were dreaming about how we could take this workshop you created with your colleagues, In My Shoes, and adapt it to fit to different professions of students. And we started with the nursing students in trying to help them to understand empathy and working with patients who have disabilities. but we've come a long way since that time. And because this is a student-led event, each year the ability event looks a little bit different. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are from, I think this is our 9th ability event. And you have been our constant father of the ability event since the very beginning. Yes. I didn't say grandfather, I said father.
Yes.
What do you think about how the ability event has evolved, and what's the next step?
Well, you're right. It's absolutely amazing what has happened from a conversation actually going back to, and I thought about this morning when I thought, oh, Amy's gonna interview me. I thought, Amy, the last time you interviewed me was when you actually interviewed me for a job at Minneapolis Technical College when we both worked there so many years ago. And I talked about the program I had developed when I worked at a day program for adults with disabilities called In My Shoes. And you're right, I think it was over dinner one night that you asked me again more about this. And it sort of blossomed from there. As you said, it began with the nursing program, but it has become so much more than that. And the fact that we've now encompassed nationally and internationally with the China connection. And I'm still telling you and Kathy, I am gonna get to China.
We will bring you to China, but other places, you know, we've had people from 6 different countries joining in for ability event sessions, and more than 700 attendees. So this has definitely grown to an international event.
Which is, and I apologize for my cat.
Was that a cat?
Walked across. And I should have given that disclaimer. I have a cat, and Amy, as you know, I have a new puppy who is sleeping soundly. But in case you hear something, that would be it. But
I do want to tell the audience, we tried to record this interview on Saturday, which was an absolutely beautiful day. Enzo was barking. I got video bombed by my family members, and so we said, let's just do this live.
yes. Plus, I think live is better.
Yes. So the ability event, I think, has now kind of is starting to evolve into really being more of an advocacy kind of conference, and really breaking down barriers and changing attitudes. And I think you know a thing or two about attitudes and discrimination. Would you have some comments to share about that?
Why, whatever are you talking about?
I don't know, maybe one of my favorite stories that you share, which is really sad that it shouldn't be a favorite story, but it's a really good example of how attitudes are still in society are astonishing. I've heard this story that you're about to tell probably, I don't know, 50 times, and every time I'm just shocked that people treat other people that way. So I think our audience should hear, it's hopefully not so common anymore, but you'll be able to tell us how common that kind of treatment is.
No, I agree with you. I think one of the common things that in the disability community I've heard, and I agree, is the biggest disability we're facing is the attitudes of other people. And it's really clear. Well, okay, this story began, I want to say, 8 years ago, maybe 9, when I worked at the day program here, excuse me, here in St. Paul. And I worked with a number of adults with a wide range of physical and mental disabilities.
This is St. Paul, Minnesota for our,
Well,
yeah.
I'm sorry, you're so good at reminding me of that.
Minnesota, the big city, St. Paul, Minnesota. Okay.
St. Paul, Minnesota, yes. And the speech therapist who we had on staff there has become a good friend of mine. And one day, it was a Friday, and it was at the end of a week, you know, the kind of week that we've all had, that it's like, oh my gosh, it's finally Friday, will this week never end? And Joe, this speech therapist, came to my office and said, hey, you want to do happy hour tonight? I said, oh my God, yes, please. He said, fine, I'm gonna go pick up my wife, Tina, and we'll meet you at the bar. And we ended up going to a sports bar in West St. Paul. And so I finished up my work and drove out to the bar, and Joe and Tina had arrived before me. Because when I walked in, I looked over and saw they were already sitting at the booth. So I walked over. They were at the booth, so I sat right across from them. And I saw they had ordered. I couldn't believe it. I thought, well, let's order. Well,
So rude.
What?
So rude.
Yes. The waitress came up to us and said, can I get you folks something to drink? And I was like, yeah. So she went to Joe and Tina and said, what would you like to have? And I think Joe ordered a beer and Tina ordered wine or something. And then the waitress turned to me and said, and what would you like? And I was like, what do you have? And I kid you not, she kneeled down beside me, put her hand on my knee, looked up at me and said, well, we have brown pop, we have orange pop, we have white pop. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, what's white pop? But I was astounded. I was in shock. And I looked over to my two friends for support. They were no help because they were laughing their heads off. And I looked back to the waitress and said, well, actually, I was thinking I would like to have a beer. And Amy, this look of horror came over her face. And she immediately looked over at Joe and Tina as if to say, can he have this?
Oh my gosh.
And Joe and Tina like, get him what he wants. And she looked at me and said, on second thought, give me 2 beers. She walked away. Needless to say, she did not get a tip that day.
I imagine she
And
did not.
this happened, it happened a while ago, but 8, 9 years ago isn't that far back.
It isn't that far back. And I'm sure that you have lots of stories of being treated that way, being treated differently because of the way you speak or maybe the way that you walk. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I think it comes from people. what is it saying that people say that you make a judgment about another person within the first 5 seconds of seeing them? And I think that happens a lot. People see me, even you and I have been all together, you've seen it, where they'll make judgments before even talking to me. They
Yes.
don't know that I'm director of disability resources at Hamline University in St. Paul. In fact, when I meet somebody for the first time, I will try and work that in the very beginning. And this is not to promote me and say how great I am, but it's to nip that in the bud to say, no, I'm a professional. I have a real job and real responsibility.
I think it starts, I really think it starts young. We condition our kids. I know when I was young, if there was someone with a physical disability or someone who looked differently, my parents would be like, don't look, don't stare. And I'm wondering if you think that sets up a fear and starts that attitude really early.
That's very interesting you say that, because when I give presentations like at Hamline or to any organization, I'll often give that same scenario. I'll say, if I'm walking down the street and an adult and child is walking towards me, and the child looks and points at me, I will see many, many times the adult yank the child's arm and say, don't look, don't stare, don't, and they walk by. And I think the adults think I'm doing the right thing because it's not polite to stare, it's not. But non-verbally, the message that child is getting from mom or dad or whoever they're with are, I don't know what's wrong with this person, but mom or dad don't talk about it and they don't even want me to look at it. So it must be something really, really bad. And they grow up thinking this, and I think that's where some of the attitude comes from. And even if you look back at your, like when I was in high school, everyone knew there was a special ed department. And many of you maybe remember this. You all know where the special ed department is. It's down at the end of the hall. Everyone knows that. You walk by, you see kids, the special kids that go there. You never ever go down there, but you know it's down there, which is why when now at Hamline, when students come into me, one of the first things I tell them is our office is not Hamline's special ed department. It's a resource, because I think for many disability offices at universities and institutions, that is a problem for students not wanting to come in and use that resource because they think, oh, it's the special ed kids. So I'm trying to dispel that.
Yeah, and I think the attitude really goes very deep, and it even for people who work in our field, there is sometimes attitude or barriers about people with disabilities and what they can do. I thought maybe that you could share a little bit about your experience with vocational rehab, because I believe that you worked with vocational rehab. We have lots of students who are coming into the field. And as you had mentioned earlier, I interviewed you for a position at MCTC in the Twin Cities. And I'm not sure at that time that you had much support from your BR counselor.
No, and this is, I mean, right, because I wouldn't what we had before it was passed and just after. And I think they were trying to get a feel of how this really works, because I had experience where they would look at somebody with a certain disability and automatically say, okay, we're going to put you into this category of jobs. I remember working with one VA counselor who talked to me a little bit about what my education was, but then said, well, we feel that these are the type of jobs that you should actually apply for. Knowing, not even asking me if I'm interested in that job, but they felt this is the type of job we feel we can get you into. And it didn't work for me. I mean, I had one, and I don't even think you know this. I don't know if I shared this with you. I had one VA counselor. Hello, Lucy.
Sorry, audience.
I had one VA counselor that came in and started talking to her. She's a VA counselor, so you talk about not only your vocational goals, but you get into some personal stuff. And she said, I got about halfway through, she said, I know exactly what you mean. I said, really? She said, yeah, well, I've had back problems. In fact, I have back problems. I'm on this drug and this drug and this drug. And what do you think about that? And I'm sitting there thinking, wait, when did I become the VA counselor? So that was a whole nother story.
That's weird, first of all. That's pretty odd. But I think it's important to point this out because what kind of advice would you give to students who are wanting to become rehab counselors and working with people with disabilities and helping support their employment goals, which may not align with what their evaluation or testing might have shown?
Talk to them. Get to know them. And I know this sounds simple, but it really is that simple. I tell students when I'm talking to them, I tell them when we talk about accommodations, many of them won't come in and say, tell me what you can give me. And I stop them right there and say, no, that's not how I work. You are in the driver's seat. You need to tell me what you need because you know your particular disability the best. You are the expert in this case and you need to tell me. Now, it needs to be realistic. For example, Amy, if I came to you and said, Amy, I really love this circus. And I decided what I want to do is I want to become a tightrope walker. And I can know tightrope walking all, inside and out. I can be well versed in it. But you know me, look, there's no way I'm going to tightrope walk. But you can say, this may not be an option, but there are many options within the circus industry.
Steve, this is Kathy. We had a problem with the captions there. And so I'm going to go back because I want them to hear this example that you just did, okay?
Where do we go back to?
I'm going to go right back to when Steve, I'm going to repeat this part for you. We've been doing great right up till this point, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so from Steve's perspective, he said, Amy, if I would come up to you and ask for your advice or tell you that I want to go to the circus and I want to become a tightrope walker, way up in the sky, tightrope walker. And what would Amy respond to that? Steve, can you share again?
Yes. Well, if I would say I'd want to be a tightrope walker, Amy, you probably know it means that that's not going to happen. I mean, I could know tightrope walking inside and out, know all the facets, but it's not going to happen for me. However, that does not mean that I can't be part of the circus and the circus world, because there are many options. And you can take that with any industry that you might come up with. If I want to be a brain surgeon, okay, well, maybe not. You probably don't want me working as a brain surgeon, but there are many other aspects in the medical field that you can work in. And I think honing that down by that communication, and I don't mean just a half hour to an hour interview, but really get to know that person, what they like, what they don't like, what they can do, what they can't do. And if you're not sure if they can do it, ask them. Say, can you do this?
What about, what would you say for maybe youth with disabilities who may not know what they want to do or may not know how to advocate for themselves? You said that you asked your students to come in and have a conversation with you. What about those students who have never really advocated for themselves and don't know what to say or what they need?
Well, part of my job and part of the students you're working with and part of your job is to help develop those advocating skills. And I would start by asking them what are they interested in, and then go from there. And if, I tell students all the time, and you notice too, that first year students come in and you say, what's your major? And they sort of look at you like, oh my God, I don't know what my major is. And timidly you say, I don't know. And I celebrate that. I say, that's great. It's your first year in college. How could you possibly know what you want? So try different things. Start out with what you think you'd be interested in and try it. See if you like it. You may get into something and think, oh my God, this is nothing that I wanted. Or you may find something that you was sort of off in the peripheral, but you tried it and you think, wow, I'm really good at this. And I really enjoy doing it.
And interested, you might not know you're interested in things until you try it. Well, I'm going to ask you one more question, but while I'm asking you that question, I'm going to ask the audience if they have questions to go ahead and put it in our Q&A. But, I'm wondering, we've been kind of talking about attitudes and perceptions of people, and I'm wondering if that's a challenge for you in your current position as Director of Disability Services at Hamline University, if you often encounter attitudes or barriers from administration or from faculty or from students.
I know this is going to sound like a canned response, but at Hamline, I really haven't. Hamline has been really supportive of me. When I as I said, when I talk to students or parents, I try and start out with a joke to get them laughing, because I often find if you can get people to laugh, this invisible wall that goes up between people that have differences comes tumbling down. Which when I talk, I often say, okay, I'm gonna be talking about disabilities, but I want you to replace disability with differences that we all have. Because I think that, I mean, we can see by our current climate here that differences create these walls and these misconceptions that go far beyond what they should be. And if you can break down those walls and have people start communicating and getting to know each other, you can alleviate a lot of the issues.
That's a really great advice. I'm really happy that Hamline has been such a supportive place. I believe there have been employment places that haven't been so supportive in the past. And so I'm really glad that you are at a place that embraces diversity and inclusion, such like at St. Cloud State University. We have been working really hard to have a more inclusive campus, but we're not perfect. Our campuses aren't perfect, and there still are barriers for students to get to their classes sometimes, or work with certain faculty members who have attitudes, and we just have to keep working and keep advocating to make sure that we are trying our best to have inclusive spaces.
Yes, I would agree. Are there barriers on Hamline's campus? Yes, but we're moving to tear down the barriers. In fact, I was speaking a while back with our president, President Miller, about this, and I said, even if you're moving inches, if you're moving forward, that's progress.
Yeah. Well, we have a question actually from my colleague, Dr. Coleman, and he says, "Hi, Steve, I hope you are doing well." And he is wondering, he's wondering if the numbers of students with disabilities, are they increasing in your office at Hamline? And he's wondering, if not, what can we do to support students with disabilities? We know that we actually only serve a small % of students who really could benefit from our services.
Yes, thank you. Good to see you, even though I don't see you. Good to hear from you. Yeah, the numbers are increasing. However, you are correct in that I think the line within our profession is, for every student that you see, there's probably 2 or 3 students that could use our services. And the vast majority of students we serve are dealing with mental health issues, which is anxiety, depression. And I think it's getting better, but dispelling the stigma of the mental health issues to make it okay. And I think that's what we, at least in our office, we try to do, is whatever you're dealing with is okay. It's a part of you. My cerebral palsy is a part of me. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And I think a lot of students feel ashamed that they have whatever they have. And it's trying to convey to them it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's part of what makes you who you are. And to be able to utilize the resources that will only support who you are is really important.
And Dr. Coleman concurs with you and says that anxiety and depression is increasing dramatically, and many of those students cannot get the services that they need.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, I think with recent events that have happened with COVID-19, with the Black Lives Matter movement, with all of this, it's only increasing that anxiety.
That's true. I agree. I believe that a lot of being isolated and being alone, we know it also contributes to a lot of mental health issues. So I want to move now to another question. This is sort of like a different perspective, but we from Colby Smith, and I think you know Colby. He's participated as a moderator in our Ability events in the past. But he's asking you if you could maybe comment on if you've had any personal experiences of being considered an inspiration with no substance behind it, AKA inspiration porn. So our audience may not know what inspiration porn is, but maybe you can talk about that for a minute.
Kobe, it is so interesting that you brought this up because, as a matter of fact, yesterday my uncle stopped by and he brought by an article in this week's Time magazine, and it's called "What Does Kindness Look Like?" And it talks about how people interact with people with disabilities, and they think they're being kind, but there really is this inspiration porn. And my uncle was asking me, does this really happen? I said, oh yes, people that don't even know me will come up to me, take my hand and say, Jesus loves you, or you are such an inspiration. Or if I get done speaking, they'll say, that was so inspiring. Well, all I did was give a presentation like many of my other colleagues have given. And it really diminishes. It's like, thank God you're out there fighting. No, we're actually just living our lives normal. And we make mistakes and flub ups just like everyone else.
Right. So I think the message for our audience is if you take away the disability, is that something that you would give someone an award for? You know, yeah. Like making, yeah, go ahead.
I often tell when I'm speaking, I'll say, people have this attitude about people with disabilities that you gotta be kind to them, that they're nice, and you gotta be overly nice to them, and if they have bad behaviors, forgive them because they can't help. That is BS, because for many people, and Amy, I know you and I have talked about this, for many people with disabilities, you take away the disability, they'd still be a jerk. I mean, quite frankly, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about getting to know that person. By getting to know that person, you may find out, wow, this is a great person, I'm glad I got to meet them. Or you may find out, this person's really a jerk, and I really don't want to associate with them, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, so I think the point is that people with disabilities are just people. With all the range, they're just people. Why is that a hard concept? Why do we have to have all these events so people can just treat people with disabilities as people?
And that's the point. If that would be the basis of treating people with disabilities like you treat everyone else, are they going to need some support? Yes, in some cases, but treat them like you would anyone else.
Yeah, just make things accessible for them. I have another question from you from Theo Ressa, and Theo was one of our panelists last week, and he says, "Hi Steve, it's great to hear you talk about possibilities and challenges people with disabilities experience every day in society. Can you please elaborate on the whole issue of stigma as it relates to visible and invisible disabilities and how it affects registration of students with disabilities with the Office of Disability Services?" Why don't you go ahead, and he has a second part, but go ahead and.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Theo. I have often said, and I tell students this, that students that come in with non-apparent disabilities, I will tell them in a lot of ways, I think I have it easier. I really do, because when people see me walk, or now you hear me talk, you know that I have some type of disability. When folks who have non-apparent disabilities, it is hard. I think it's harder for them because they're not going to come out and say it. They don't wear a sign around their neck that says, I have bipolar, or
Yeah.
I have anxiety. And I think it's harder to
Decide when to disclose.
exactly.
I think that struggle of when do I disclose that I have this?
Well,
do I wait till there's a barrier, or do I disclose now?
Right. And in fact, when I applied with you, going into that, I had that struggle of, do I disclose that I have CP in my cover letter? Do I not? Because legally I don't have to. But then I thought, well, when you see me walk in, you're gonna know. So
Yeah. The second part of his question, and this is something I think about a lot, and I think we've even discussed this before, but Theo wants to know if you could talk about the name changes that many universities have adopted to instead of Office of Disability Services, changing that to Student Access Services, and whether you believe that the name change has reduced stigma or led to increased number of students registering with disability services or student services?
oh, Theo.
I know, this is a very controversial question to ask on a Monday morning.
It is, even within our community. And
It is.
I have a certain take on it that I know some of my colleagues disagree with. But here it is. I don't think a name change is, people say, well, we want to get rid of the word disability. And my train of thought is, why? Because if you're getting rid of the word disability, you're saying that word is bad.
Right.
There's something wrong with that word.
It's just like, don't look at that person.
Well, and they said, I am a disabled man. I know that, but I'm also proud of that. And quite frankly, I think you could put the name of Nirvana on our office. You could. But the thing is, people are going to know what that office does. And I just think putting out the message of, no, be proud of who you are. Be proud of, yes, this is part of me, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, I know. I really struggled this weekend putting together my syllabus for the intro to rehabilitation class, you know, because my time coming through, well, I've gone through many generations of philosophy of thought, but the most recent philosophy of thought has been to use person first language and say, you know, person with a disability, or person who is deaf, or person who is, you know, has CP. And a lot of people in the disability community are sort of resisting back on using that person first term and saying, hey, you know, I have CP, I'm a deaf person, you know, I'm a disabled person. And taking back and claiming that term disabled. And Judy Human talked a little bit about it. And I, you know, usually in my syllabus, I have this whole little paragraph about when using your language, use person, you know, first language, you know, try to not use these kinds of terms. And I really struggled to put that in there. I left it in there because it's not really been replaced yet. But we really do need, as a community, to come together and say, here are best practices of how you interact with people with disabilities, so that people who do not have disabilities know, you know, I think a part of changing the attitude is helping to get over that fear of, I need to know how to, you know, what words can I say? What words do, you know, what words should I avoid?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because going back to what we talked about, people with disabilities are like everyone else, which is why you have people in the disability community saying, I like it like this. Other people say, no, I like it like, I mean, so you're constantly having this battle of what, you know, my younger brother works in the newspaper industry. He called me up one day and said, what do we call you people? And I mean, he was saying it jokingly, but just that it changes from day to day, week to week. Again, I go back to communication, talking to that person. They will let you know how they want to be addressed.
Yeah. And there's a comment from Nick Audet. He is a recent graduate from our program, and he said Amy's program was the one that taught me the depth of being deaf, something that he was searching for but never found until he was able to find it in the program. It helped him to fill in the blanks of what he needed, as well as defining deafness as his own entity outside of the disability sphere. Thank you, Nick, for saying that. And I'm happy that you were able to find that. It's really difficult because, as Steve has just mentioned, you know, the depth of people with disabilities is so broad. You can't categorize them or define them in one simple term. It's complex, and we have to respect how people want to be identified, how people want to see themselves in the world. So this has been a great conversation, Steve. It's always such a joy and a pleasure for me to have conversations with you. And thank you for being here today and having this conversation. And any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Well, I want to thank you, Amy, for not only this, but for your friendship that's gone we've come a long way, both of us,
Yes.
since that first day I walked in for my interview with
Yes.
you. And it's been great. Again, I want to say how great I think these past 26 days have been. I mean, we've covered a lot of different aspects of disability, from race, gender, you name it, which is exactly how it should be, because the disability community encompasses all of that.
Yes.
And I'm just so proud of you. I'm proud of, I want to thank Kathy and everybody at St. Cloud State for making this event more than my wildest dreams could have imagined, and to think of what it's going to become in the future. I know great things are ahead.
Yeah, I think the event has turned out even better than I had imagined. So I just want to tell the audience, this is the last week of the Ability event, and we have a few more sessions this week that you don't want to miss. Tomorrow is a Lunch and Learn panel with being moderated by Kristen Burgess, who is the Director of Student Access Services at Metro State, and special speakers, Ken Rogers, Dr. Mohammed Alfas, Linda Wolford, and Andrea Imhoff.
It will be fantastic.
It is going to be absolutely fantastic. On Wednesday will be our final U.S. China Deaf Project conversation. Every Wednesday we've been having these China talks about the research that Kathy and I have been doing collectively in China, and we have some special guests. One is Gao Wei. For our Chinese attendees, will be talking with us, and the other member who will be sharing with us, her name is Wei, and so people may know both of them. They both attended schools in the US, and so we're really excited about that. On Thursday, though, we have the Director of State Services for the Blind, Natasha Jurdy, and Director of Minnesota Vocational Rehab Services, Dee Torgerson, will be talking with us on Thursday. That will be a special session led by one of our students, Skylar Gerlin. And then on Friday is our Ability Event Gala. We're really looking forward to it. It will start at 4:30, and so we'll have a happy hour at 4:30, and we'll be highlighting 30 watch parties. And so if you're interested in being one of the watch parties that's on camera, please send an email to rce@stcloudstate.edu. And so I'd like to thank everyone for being here. And if there's no other questions, so you all have a great day, and students, have a great start to your academic year. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.